the early stages of, I guess, the 9th of June turn. Gets us, I hope I wrote that, I hope I read this right, to the initial parts. The Allies got a couple naval fire, and they picked up, or the U.S. picked up initiative as well. I feel like I haven't pushed hard enough, but the rest of this unit's brigade was damaged. Yes, I could have pushed them a little further, whatever. Trying to cut off this looks really important in order to getting around that, but it's really tough. This is not impassable, but it's close enough. It's so painful, from here. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, I think, to move along that. So that takes a couple of operation chances just to break through the swamp. And then you don't have supply through that. You have a line of communications, but no supply. So it seems to me controlling this road is more important. Now, obviously, I didn't push as hard as I could have, but this thing really got in my way. I didn't even bust my way through it, and that is the centerpiece of the road, which is why it's so important. So, I'll try to figure out what I'm doing with the U.S., and we open up with a big 8 operations. Problems I've got is a lot of, I've got a lot of artillery here that I could launch into something like this and save my naval fire for attacks that aren't so well positioned for the artillery. Because this guy's up on a hill, but on the other hand, I believe all that crap in the way is going to be painful anyway. I am in an entrenchment that's -1, and a city that's going to be a total of -3. That's going to be tough to bust through just using firepower. I do have him cut off. I can probably get a fair amount of bonuses, but he's got some anti-tank assets there, quite a bit, and I'm like, gosh, how am I gonna dig him out of there? And what am I gonna do about it in order to get there? This may be the last turn. Next turn, a lot of reinforcements are gonna start flowing into the southern part of the map. Whew, I don't know what to do. The unit had taken a couple of hits, which helped a lot. Even though I was at a much higher terrain, I was able to get to the +10 bonus after firing some naval fire, demoralizing with a lucky shot, and have busted through with some extra movement, for whatever that's worth. Remember, these red units, they can't cross this line once we get beyond here, so don't worry. So they're not going to be going over and helping me get towards St. Lo in any direction. It's the blue and potentially the yellows which can do that. And we still have a whole bunch of operations left. That doesn't look right. I did not have 12 to begin with. Oh, did I move it in the wrong direction? I think I must have. I think I was at 9 and I should be at 7 now. Still got more to go though. This hill I was able to get a maximum strength artillery barrage. Didn't even use all my artillery. I still have most of the red units in this. Let me make sure. Yeah, I spent 3 on it. Okay. And now I have to launch my attack. Now my attack's kind of weird because I don't have any assets attached to the 16th. So what I want to do is get these assets over, and they'll be fatigued then. And then I guess move this and try to attack with this. It's not going to be a fully prepared attack. In fact, I don't know if it's going to be an attack at all. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's a hasty attack there. Like, I'd be better off making the attack from here, but I don't want to waste this guy's movement. So I'm going to put him in there with that hasty attack, and we'll see what that does. So this is going to be a complicated one. Why don't we do it because of that? We'll see if we get everything vaguely right. We already did the barrage to soften it up. Got the demoralized. That's big. So the defender's demoralized. That gets me a +4. 2 units engaged. That gets me 3 more. German defender is extended. No, it's not intensive. It's not deliberate. The defender, none of this. The defender can't trace a line of communication. That is only worth 1, unfortunately. And that's the good stuff until we get to the armor differential. Now, I've got a big armor here, but I'm not sure how well it's going to do for me. I should have calculated it out. I've got 6 points of armor to 4 counter armor. So that gives me a base of +2 armor. I'm in a city that drops it to 0. I'm in an entrenchment. That's a -1 for what it is. But the defender's demoralized, so I get +2 from the armor. That gets me up to the +10. However, I have not dealt with everything here yet, which is the entrenchment, a -1. Still no defensive fire. I'm in a city, -2. We're down to +7. And that's all she wrote. Okay, now. So I'm at +7. What are the modifiers? It's 3 to 3. So 3 to 3 is going to be this column. +7. Doesn't look great. I get a 12. That's going to be a hit to each. But that weakens the German unit. It's already demoralized. I'm going to be able to probably dig it out of there. And then we can try launching our units to get things into position to try to cut that off. Time is of the essence, though. However, timing is too. Just to say, the Germans may not want to. They don't want to fall out of here and open this causeway through this bridge up until there's a threat that forces them to, basically. For another set of assets here. Let's flip him so that we know he's attacking. And now I can do a deliberate attack instead of the hasty attack. That gets me an additional +3 off of what I had before. That should get me to the +10. And we're on the 3 to 2 table, which puts us on a slightly better table with better die roll. We're probably going to bust our way through. 14, maybe not. We only do 1. That still didn't kill it. And we used up, all our activity to try to bust that. I still have 1 more unit of this command, and I can pull it back and in, or I could attack across the river. That's just a stream. The stream will not affect the armor value, but I'm getting lower in armor, so that may not be as good. It will affect my total defense, though. Plus, again, I've had to reallocate 2 of my asset stacks. All I have left is 2 more armor in this area that can reach if I'm doing the attack. So what did I say? We were 1 hit. Thing. I have 1 remaining operation, and that would be the asset transfer. Then I'm starting to go into negatives. Is that a big deal? I don't know. As long as I'm not making the threat right now, I don't know that it really hurts me, so I think I want to continue with the attacks. I was also considering trying to launch a unit down this way. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That actually gets me a victory point to get down there. And then this is the 2 victory point line, and that's a 3 victory point line? Yeah. So I could actually probably get down, throw some units way down there to get me a couple more victory points a turn. Those are the only victory points I got available to me until I kind of clear this, or if I bypass it, which would be weird, and might not be a bad idea. So we got to think. We got to think about what we want to do. There's nothing the Germans can do with their reinforcements until after the turn is over. So, and they can't attack anyway. So we can actually pound down and grab a fair amount of victory points. The problem is we'll be running our units, a little hot to do that. But it might be more important to try to get our way down here, get some victory points, and move our way here and get control of this road, because that just may be more valuable than trying to get through that thing. I don't think that just doesn't look easy. Get a decent plus here, because this is down to 1 strength point, and 3 against 1. I start getting eliminations on a 6. So if I can get around +5, that may be enough. And armor is not that terribly effective there because of the city, because of the entrenchment. And now I have 2 points less armor because I've already lost an armor off that set of assets. So launching this attack might be better without the armored support at this point. Let's see what we end up with as a modifier to make our decision there. Let's say we're just making a prepared attack, because to get rid of the river, the stream, we'd have to go 1, 2, 3, and then it's a hasty attack, and that's 3-point difference. So the stream is not worth that much. The stream's worth what? 1, 2. Not good. Okay. So let's take a look at what the mods are going to be on this, because if we can get +5, we definitely go. Defenders demoralized, that's 4 right off the bat. 2 units are adjacent to the defender, that's 3 more. Hey, it would be an intensive attack, that brings me to 3 more. Defender can't trace a line of communication, 1 more. But now on the defensive side, the defender is in an entrenchment, that's 1. The defender's in a city, that's 2. The defender's behind a stream, that's 2. We're at +6. That looks pretty good. The defender has armor and attacker has none. Well, what's the definition of armor? Yeah, that's armor, right? No, those are anti-tank. I don't think they're armor. I'm going to have to look that up. Yeah, armor is specifically tanks. So that would not apply here. And the anti-tank guns aren't going to do much against a bunch of guys running in. So it looks to me like we're at +6 on that pretty decent table. Let's do it. There's a chance we might not even take a hit. And that happens, so we get to eliminate them. And I don't think there's an advance after combat. Am I mistaken? There should be. I don't remember anymore. Seem to think it gives you the hex, but yes, there is an advance after combat without movement points. Okay, cool. Yeah. I think I've been playing it that way, but it's a little weird. Okay, so yeah, we destroy that and all those anti-tank guns, and we're in pretty good shape. We could do more, though, if we wish to. And there's reasons to do it, because, again, the Germans don't have a lot to spend their points on, especially if I'm destroying their units. And a big push down here. This is part of the 26th Brigade. These are 18th. The 18th has a used unit. The 26th has a tired unit. And a unit that's holding assets that I probably want to transfer before I move it. Although, I don't know. Maybe I do want to send those assets down there if I'm not going to be launching an attack against this turn. It might be useful to have those assets heading down there. I ended up giving the Germans the +3 to the die roll. So, see how good they are. they're going to have 8 operations. And I got no idea how to react. You know, do I do something? Do I not? This guy would love to rest. He's a little tired. This artillery is useful where it is, but on the other hand, if I'm going to defend, I had better find my places to defend. For example, if he wants to entrench, he's got to do it now, or he has to hurt himself. I really shouldn't be here. This was a stupid place to end up. I should have found a position that I wanted to be in, like here, or I couldn't move this far, but here, one of these villages that gives me some defensive benefit. This is part of the difficulty with not really feeling comfortable with the game, you know, not having played it enough to know what the flow is, as it were. I feel kind of knocked off my feet as the Germans right now, in terms of I'm not in the position I want to be. It might not matter in terms of victory points. Again, there's a pretty heavy requirement on the U.S. However, whatever I move and don't move is... Well, I rolled a die. I have to move. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We're going to move this guy here, injured or not, and try to dig in up on that hill. That looks useful. I think we're going to hold our position otherwise, although this guy gets an administrative movement bonus right now that he might not get very shortly. So do I want to fall back a lot? Well, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You know, I can cover that town, which is probably where I want to go no matter what. So I think I'm going to hold and hand it off to the U.S., who will probably be positioning more than anything at this point, with 4. I handed that big +3 to the Germans, shifting a bunch of forces to this guy here to prevent strategic movement. Now this could open up some kind of opportunity for the Germans to attack, but you know, they're not really an attacking position. What are my chances of covering this gap if I shift this guy over here instead? Again, I'm not entrenched, which is the problem. Well, all my reinforcements come in through A and B. B comes in down here. I could get some units quite far forward to cover it, I think. So yeah, I'm going to roll the die. The nice thing is everybody is in some range for him for defensive fire. I have to check the defensive fire range, but I have 11 opportunities. What's the defensive fire range? Let's find that. A 105 artillery on its mobile within 8 hexes of the defender. That is, I believe, a 105. Yeah. So let's move this. 1, 2, 3, 4. Do we want to cover here instead? We leave a gap if we do that. I'm happier with building a line here, I think, even though I can't entrench for whatever reason. And then I'm just going to hand that back to the U.S. again, because there's nothing I really want to do. And they get 8. Remaining naval fire I haven't used yet. I pushed all the way down here. Now that cost me something. And I also pushed up here to cover my artillery position there. I may move some more. Again, this is about jockeying for position, or maybe trying to force these guys to withdraw. I don't think I can bust my way through there, so I'm sending the 175th across the causeway there, which, again, that threatens this position in a way that it looked kind of safe from a frontal attack. You know, there's the danger of a curve around here, but that's expensive. Well, this is expensive too, but we're getting close, and that's kind of scary. Do the Germans want to roll a die? I kind of don't think so. These guys are both fatigued, which means whatever I would do would hurt them. And I can't entrench them too close, so yeah. Defense-wise, I feel like I'm failing horribly. When I beat my defense, that means that I'm doing something really wrong. I don't know that I'm doing that yet. I don't know how good it is, but it feels like the U.S. has gotten a real jump on. So yeah, I think we just keep going with U.S. operations. I'll roll a die, see if I get a 0. No, so I get to do some more stuff. Now the question is how hard the U.S. wants to push. Again, these guys can come through. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And boy, does that throw a threat in place. Problem? I'm no longer in supply if I do that, because I would have to be tracing my supply this way. I can't trace it across the causeway. So I don't know how much that degradation is going to really be effective. I would have a line of communication, however, which is, I believe, the only factor that has a play on the combat roll. But in terms of recovering, I wouldn't be able to recover, including fatigue, and that's problematic. Moved the assets over here to push them through the swamp. I don't think I can undermine this. I thought about throwing my naval fire in there. That's not going to do much. There's like a -5 to it for the city and the strong point. I would have to basically roll an 11 to do anything. So yeah, that's not going to happen. On a die that maxes out at 9. So then there's the question of, well, what about an attack, say here, or here where it's weakened, but screw that, he's got extra armor support and he's on a hilltop. But this guy's not in that great a position. But what I would have to do is move a number of pieces into place here. So this thing, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, possibly into one of these, whatever. I would have to move that there. That would take a hit. And then launch an attack with another unit, preferably not the damaged unit, but whatever unit I do attack with is going to take a point of damage beforehand. So, it's going to be like a 2 versus 3 table. I don't have assets available. I did move these, but I couldn't get them that far. It's like 6 hexes. And 2 versus 3 just doesn't look that advantageous. I have to get a 12 to be able to hit them. So I don't think I'm going to be able to make an effective attack. Now, is there something I want to fatigue? Sure, I could fatigue the artillery, because that could conceivably bombard me, and that's about the best I think I can do with my naval fire. Outside of that, there's not much I can do. I need this unit to move, to be in position to threaten that strong point. At least to prevent them from crossing over and taking out all my supplies. And nothing else is in position to launch an attack that's valuable enough to take the damage that would be required to take it. This unit could come charging down here to help support this guy, but this guy's really there for the victory points. And I'm willing to fall back a little bit, and I'd rather see what the reinforcements do. They're not going to get too far in this direction because there's no administrative movement within 4 hexes of him. So, they might put a threat on him, but they're not going to be able to hit him directly. Now, that threat may materialize if the Germans get initiative. Of course, yeah, there's not going to be any reaction to the move. And the thing is, I don't think I want to take a hit to move those forces into play. I'd rather keep them in kind of solid shape in case there's an attack or something that materializes down there. So there's not a lot I want to do with the U.S. anymore. We're at the end of the operations phase. The U.S. is done with what it wants. I could move this gun. Yeah, what the hell? Doesn't hurt to give it an extra hex. They're within range that they can kind of hit this thing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's an 8 hex range for these guns. That's kind of important. because I don't have my artillery support on this side. But yeah. How about here? 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. This guy is not. Instead of moving him 1 hex, what if I move him all the way to here? That'll give me a little bit more play, because this is the more likely place that I want to hit as things sit right now. So yeah, reinforcements. Who's our first? The Germans. We roll a die, and it is turn 1, 2, 3, 4. So there's a +6 on the die roll. That gets me an 11, which is 4 spaces. 1, 2, 3, 4. So everything from here back gets to come on. And remember, they can use admin movement as needed or as applicable. Each of these is just 1 unit, though, with assets attached. Well, I got some limitations. This guy is the only guy coming in down here. I pushed him here into this into this city. I figure that'll slow things down a little bit, but the problem is there aren't a lot of A's coming. There's 1 more unit of that. Third Fallschirmer here is got units from 3 different brigades in play here. So nothing's really near each other. We're just throwing the things that are closest in play as close, as far forward as we can. What we have with that is I'm trying to prevent, well, here, this is kind of important. I could have actually gone a little bit further, not much, but this was the best place where I can prevent this roadway from being used or this one from being used. And I'm so low on units, that's what I want to do. And these guys I'm just pushing as far forward to try to cope with this. I don't know about that. That's beginning to look pretty hard to defend. Like, yeah, I'm throwing things towards the gap, but this is going to get overwhelmed. However, that's such a good point for bottling things up. Maybe I want to hold on. Anyway, I can't do anything about it right now. It's on to the U.S. reinforcements, where we get units of the 2nd Division coming in, and a bunch of assets from the Corps, including artillery. Recovery phase. Nobody had paused long enough. Nobody paused so that they could get points back. So everybody's pushing hard, German and U.S. at this point. And I guess all that's left is... Are there any control markers to mark? No. We got 3 victory points again, +2 for that. Is 5 for the U.S. now, which gets us up to 11. That is the end of turn 4. Now, if we can maintain that 5 points per turn, which seems fairly likely, although we might have to fall back, we're looking at that 20-point range that we want for the victory conditions here on the early thing. It's actually 21. We'd have to find another point. And that's going to be hard to do. I'm not going to be able to push further in this direction. And it doesn't look to me like, that's not even worth one. It doesn't look to me like I'm going to get any of those edge maps, those map edge spaces very easily. So I would say that currently we're looking at, for the short game, a German marginal victory. Now, I'm not playing for the short game. I don't like doing things like that anyway. I tend to like to see as much of the campaign evolve as I possibly can. But I also, looking at it as a benchmark, I can see, push a little harder or whatever, you might be able to get those, but at what cost for the rest of the game? Yeah, it's not worth it, and that's kind of a disturbing factor when you're looking at that. I moved this already, and I guess that will be it for tonight. But you know, I'm having fun. This is a neat system. I have to say though, the mechanical task of flipping all the counters over at the end of the turn is kind of painful. That's true with all of these types of games. I may feel like it's even more painful because of the larger counters. I gotta tell you, my eyes like the bigger counters for readability, especially compared to some things, but the fingers, they have an easier time with the little ones. I want to mark up the map, and I don't have any other really easy solutions, like removable tape that, is colored or something. But someone brought up an interesting point that could be useful, where you have 2 or more level distinctions between terrain, to just put a little, I don't know, like a little white stripe there or something. Just something to mark that and indicate it. It makes the map more hideous, but it's pretty bad as it is, isn't it? Alright, so starting this next turn, slip something in before I have to go to work. And I haven't done any of the bookkeeping type stuff, so we'll just do it now. The support phase, we roll for both of our support values. A 1, that turns out to be good. It gets me an airstrike. Haven't had one in a while. And a naval fire. And then we roll for who gets the initiative. The Germans are going to have the initiative this time. I really wish this this indicated who you could flip it. I've gotten used to that kind of like in the Civil War, where one side has their color, the other side has the other. I could do that, I guess. But yeah. I don't know what the Germans want to do, but this can't be a bad thing. I think it gives me a chance to push some of those reinforcements up into place. I hope. Would be appealing would be, hey, just beat this poor thing up. But man, I don't think my odds are all that good. Thinking about it, I shifted this up. There's still a hell of a gap there. Not much I can do about it. At least not right away. What if this guy were to attack on his own? What would that mean? I have 4 to 2 on the table. I have no artillery. So that would put me on this table, which isn't bad. I start breaking even at the 8 level. If I can get, up around plus 10, it's a pretty good table. But I'm not going to be there, am I? Because this is going to be 1, 2, 3. It's going to be a hasty attack. No benefits there. The defender's nothing special. One of the problems is we don't have any supporting units of that organization. So I think we'd be looking at about even, which means, yeah, I could do damage between 3 and 8 or 3 and 7 or whatever. But, I'm just causing attrition. That's not going to help me. I am far enough away that I can... you have to be at least 3 hexes away. So some of the things are kind of painful. So like the administrative movement is more than 4 hexes, basically. Here it's at least 3 hexes away to entrench there. And maybe I want to do that. That's a good point to be in. Of course, it kind of fixes this unit there, unless we throw the U.S. back, in which case I could leave there. But yeah, you can't swap units out of the entrenchments, as far as I know. Normally you can, and that's the problem. Until the instant the German unit leaves the hex. Yeah. So you can't swap a unit into that improved position, which I find very disturbing because you might want to take something off the line and recuperate it and get somebody else in there, and they have to dig in fully, whatever that means. I don't like that at all. Yeah, so I think I'm not sure whether it's more important to push forward with another unit or what. Or dig in with these two. I definitely don't want to give him any bonuses to his die roll. And pulled another unit forward. I think with extended positions I could actually hold a line down there. I don't like extended positions. As soon as the US moves up towards them, they become a really bad idea. But otherwise, this can just get cut off. Probably will be anyway. Okay, so Germans did not give the US any operations bonus, and so we get a few ops with the US. Now, I probably am willing to give the Germans a bunch of ops points, but I'm not sure. Okay, so the US has decided to try to punch this out of the way rather than exploit the hole itself. The hole's hard to exploit. Maybe if I brought another units of the other division up, but I have a lot of artillery in position, so I did it. I moved a unit into place to observe. Then I did an artillery strike. I got a disorder from it. That helps a little bit. I've got a couple more actions to pull a unit around, helping exploit that gap, and then launch my prime attack. Of course, that leaves everything open here. If the Germans want to come storming up and attack my artillery, probably not worth it. There's no kind of interrupts or anything. They could come out 1, 2, 3, 4 and do a hasty attack against the artillery, probably kill an artillery, but it would be at the cost of this and whatever assets and whatever it brings with it. And if that were weak, it probably couldn't kill the artillery. So I kind of don't feel like there's a lot of room at this point, certainly, for a really mobile defense. I don't think there's much anyway. There aren't that many German units. I mean, remember, each of these is one piece. You need to get a significant local superiority to make a real counterattack type situation. Here, yeah, I'd have local superiority over the artillery, but in terms of everything else, I'm out in the middle of nowhere. Giving the Germans a +1 after launching the attacks. A couple of things I didn't really take into account. I don't have a lot of armor here. I thought I did. I'm like, oh, I got 3 assets. Yeah, they're 1 point each. What the hell? What are these tanks? These are anti-tanks, essentially. The German unit's in a village, and it had supporting artillery fire. It ended up only a +6 with about an equal strength, 3 to 3. That's not likely to do much. I got lucky. I ended up doing a point of damage with a high die roll just to the German unit. But this was not a great attack that I just launched. And now I got to decide whether the Germans want to roll a die. I think I have to. Are these the same unit? They're not. They're both part of the same divisional command, but yeah, they're not. I don't think they're the same unit. So, I mean, with the U.S. units, there's three battalions. Well, here's two, there's one. There's one. But there's 3 battalions in each brigade, which works well. The Germans, yeah, I have that with the. Well, no, I don't. I do not have that, and I just want to make sure that that's correct, that the Germans have to have the same units, which is what I think it is. Same regiment. Sorry, not same brigade. I can never remember which is applicable. You know, yeah, regiments, battalions, and regiments. Brigades get left out of the organization in modern stuff. So yeah. Same regimental designation, and I want to make sure this is the big one. This is the designation. This is the parent designation. That's going to be at the corps level in general, I guess. I don't know. I mean, anyway, this is divisional here. And so that is also divisional at 362. The reason I'm checking that is, hey, can I run this poor guy, who's not in healthy shape anyway, back and get out of there? I think what I need to do is run back to here and try to defend that location and give this unit up and maybe try to rush more units into the way, just so that the U.S. can't simply corrupt that position or degrade that position to the point where the Germans have to leave it, because that is a serious bottleneck to the U.S. As long as I'm keeping, a couple of these regiments out of play because they're behind the marsh. With doing this, but I pushed these guys into an extended deployment. Just to try to limit the ability to push through. The problem is those zones of influence that only cost you extra movement points. Yeah, I mean, they start making things really ugly for moving through them, but they don't impact the supply, and that's actually one of the big deals here. Plus, I'm abandoning this poor guy. I hate abandoning a unit. The final question, really, is whether this sucker needs to move. Like I said, he's in a position that I like in terms of controlling the roads, but that left one hell of a gap going straight to St. Louis. And if I'm not moving, I probably should entrench right now. I am going to be getting more reinforcements in the BC area down there. I don't think I want to move. I think I want to entrench. Getting a little harder here. This looks like such an important location that I'm willing to actually expend some hit points for that. And that leaves it to the U.S. Let me roll the die just because I really should roll it on something patty. Okay, so they get all of one operation point base. Ouch. The U.S. are under time considerations and constraints. They need to push the 3 extra operations each time, as far as I'm concerned, to get everything moving. And I didn't have a lot to do. I dropped a naval strike here because I couldn't think of anywhere else I wanted to put it. This is the naval gun line. Everything is behind it except for these 2 units. Pretty soon naval strikes are going to be pointless once I bypass that entrenchment, and I'm not going to be able to launch an attack this turn on it. I could have gotten lucky and silenced that gun. Disorder isn't good enough for defensive fire. And I shifted one of my regiments down. I would love to go chasing straight to St. Louis, but these guys can't cross that line. At least not end their turn across the line. So they're going to be positioned over into that sector. And again, the movement restrictions, etc., prevent you from doing the kind of stuff that would win you the game very easily. We're kind of in that position where the Germans don't want to take another action. We are trying to delay as much as we can with these units. We certainly can't expend more efforts and burn more strength points with them. These guys are dug in. That guy's dug in. The artillery might be a little exposed, but We'll see. It's a little more dangerous for the Germans because, again, the superiority locally is, well, and on the board is to the U.S., which means that I can kind of march over to here and cover whatever's going to swing against that artillery. So it's a very different situation. Whatever the Germans committed, they were kind of losing. So not a worthwhile exercise in my opinion. So yeah, the U.S. will just keep rolling until they either get a zero or have done everything they want, unless the Germans want to jump in. I was hoping to get a turn pumped out before I had to go to work, but I'm already cutting into that a little bit. Like I can't keep going. So far, you can see we're pushing down with whatever this is, the first division. Over here, the second division, taking kind of the central zone, because they have the capacity to move across the two borders. They just can't cross that. They're sort of completely loose compared to the other units. I can deploy them as I like. They would have been the perfect folks to go down here, but I need to bust through that location. And as long as he's an extended deployment, I think I can sort of hit him and then go, cut through with a breakthrough, because breakthroughs are very easy in this kind of design because of the pulsing. Now, what does that mean when breakthroughs, are that easy? I'm not sure. Because there's sort of this concept of time that's in play. Now, obviously, part of the problem is you're making decisions at times when the decisions aren't really made. So it's one of the things I kind of like about OCS is you assign something for breakthrough. You kind of know where it's going. Maybe it might shift its axis a little bit, but it probably isn't going to shift significantly. But here, just units you haven't moved yet are available to break through anywhere. Now, of course, the distances aren't that great, but you could hit the line in many different places, and they could be in diametrically opposed directions, and then you can still break through with units that are behind them, because you don't have to make the decision until you see the success. And the truth is, if time is an issue, you're costing those units the time. But time isn't the only issue. Remember, you can push your units a lot harder than they actually are going. And that's also a decision that's based on time. So I could take a unit that's breaking through and push it near to the death point after a breakthrough that happens relatively late in the turn. And I don't know what that means in terms of time, right? Once you start abstracting time like this game does, I start getting really kind of fuzzy on what's going on. Now, you go is abstracting time away, basically. But here, it seems to be present with the pulsing, but it doesn't quite make sense. Because the decisions that you're making in the background, in units in the back or whatever, well, those decisions are, I'm flexible, I can go anywhere. And that's not really believable. Anyway, and you do seem to have a linear progression of time in terms of this unit does something, this unit does something, which is a false representation. That's not what is actually happening. But anyway, I'm sending this division up this way. This division cutting through the swamp. This guy couldn't really make it easily. Looks like he'll have an easier time this way, with the intention of cutting that way. It doesn't look like that hold on the swamp is going to last much longer. And what else do we have? That's about it. Anyway, I gotta get to work, I think. And did another U.S. operation. I don't think the Germans are going to do anything, but I'm getting down to the end of the U.S. units. You get a couple of units that are going to recover, but otherwise I've got like a couple of artillery that I can keep moving up. I spent time moving all of them. I got these guys that I don't know what I'm going to do with. It may be best for me to start sending them through the swamp as well, simply with hey, at least they're making some forward progress through that. But I got a problem. My artillery I mostly got to use, no biggie there. But I've got an airstrike left. Airstrikes are powerful. Giving one up seems like a bad idea. On the other hand, taking a hit on a unit to press forward on more than one unit, to launch either an attack here, I could do the airstrike and hope to demoralize this poor guy, or on one of these extended deployments. That's a hard cost too, Jeez. I don't know. I feel like I do want to put more pressure though, and in particular, I got this artillery here. That looks like a target, just waiting to be hit. The unit hit to launch the attack on the artillery, destroyed it. And then I dropped an airstrike here, figuring, if I demoralize it, that's enough bonus. I don't know. I probably have tons of bonus, though. The main problem is taking the hit on the unit and being the same strength again. But yeah, I'm in kind of a rush. So I don't think I'm going to launch that attack. This unit is not hit yet, so it's still a possibility. Still thinking about that in terms of if I make that strike, then I'm in position to start putting pressure on those extended deployments. On the other hand, if I don't make the strike, I don't take damage. But having some units in a formation damaged isn't necessarily bad because I don't attack with all the units in the formation. Some of them are just in a supporting role. And it might slow the full formation's movement a little bit, but maybe not, who knows. Yeah. I thought about striking this, but again, he's in such a defensible location, it's really hard to get an airstrike to work even. -5 to the die roll will put me, what is a US? Oh, I don't know what the result of a US is. That's interesting. It's not on here. That may be a misprint and supposed to be DMs. It just looks like it's out of nowhere, and I can't think of what it could stand for. It could indicate some kind of loss, though. So let me look on the airstrike rules, see if there's anything that says something. Yeah, I don't see anything. I think that's a U.S. result has no effect on either player. Okay. A result of U.S. indicates the German target is unaffected, while each U.S. unit within 2 hexes immediately suffers demoralized. That's what it is. Okay. Yeah, we don't want that to happen. Not that that's likely, but that's kind of the, hey, we shot down your planes. Haha. So, and I used my airstrike anyway. So now the real question is, do I want to keep pushing? And I think I do. I am set up for the attack. That's the big thing. Once you're all set up, once you've moved all the units in place, you don't really want to keep delaying. It would be expensive for me to attack any of these. It would mean moving a whole formation and taking hits on the whole formation. It would mean the attacking unit takes a hit. But here I could actually launch a couple different attacks if need be. 2 attacks, I had to move the assets from there. I would have loved to have used the assets here, but they were already repositioned to move this division forward. We've taken the town. Because I took it from here, I don't really want to advance. I'm running low on numbers, but I got some things that I want to get moving. So I will use up my next couple just to shift forces. I don't think there's another U.S. attack. I think we're just shifting the remainder of forces if we get time. Where we are after the operations, which means we have the German reinforcement, and this is turn 5. So we again have that big +6 modifier to move the chart a fair amount. It only moves 3. What's here? 1, 2, 3. I think I'm only here. I think I had this bumped up an extra space. I'm pretty sure I only had 4 last time, and I don't know why this may have moved. Okay. A couple of U.S. units are resting, but some of them were burning kind of hot. Those are guys who rested and are still damaged. We haven't gained anything, so we're only getting the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 victory points again this time. And again, I wasn't really expecting actually I should be with 5 victory points. I should be able to hit. I bet you I moved this right here. I want to do that. The 5 victory points, 5 more victory points puts us up to the 21, which I think is what we need to get that minimal victory, right, for the first period. So I'm actually not doing that badly, considering I don't want to burn my units too badly trying to win the short game when I'm playing the long game. Not happy about these extended deployments here. Not happy about this breakthrough here. I could have left, but if I did that, the U.S. comes streaming through right away. And I'm not sure yet. Part of the situation was I'm not sure whether I want to fall back from here. Maybe try to use, that's the most likely, try to use this swamp as an anchor to my defenses, or if I want to try to defend, here, I just don't think that I can afford that, so I probably should have moved the German unit at already and gotten it out of there. This was scary, and now that I'm looking at things, I'm like, yep, made another mistake. I'm making mistakes on both sides, and historically the commanders made mistakes on both sides, so call that a wash? I don't know. This one is definitely hurting the Germans more, as was one of the original ones with not trying to protect those artillery. I think that would have been a wise move. So overall, I'm expecting the U.S. to do a little better than they probably should have in this game. I've moved this forward. I think all the complexity is done. This is a game where you have to balance a lot of crap, and that mechanical aspect of everything kind of jumps in there and gets in your way. Okay, support. We got an airstrike, no naval. The naval's useless anyway at this point. We've cleared almost everything. Only if, and the chances are very low for it to do anything against that location. So no biggie there. The airstrike could be a big deal. The Germans got the initiative, and I've got to decide what the hell to do about that. These extended deployments are dangerous, but there's also a serious problem in terms of withdrawing in the face of the enemy that there always should be. It's not a trivial thing to do. I think that the time has come to give this up. I think I should have perhaps done it last turn, started the process back. So I think that means we'll be pulling back, maybe to a line back here along this stream. And now I feel kind of out of position trying to withdraw. It's difficult to do a fighting withdrawal or whatever you want to call it. It doesn't really feel like a fighting withdrawal, but it felt like a delaying withdrawal. It's just your units are so damn exposed. The good thing, there's still a fair number of German units, but they're going to start trickling in a little bit more slowly. And it looks overwhelming in terms of, the amount of U.S. forces that I'm having to try to prevent on all sides. But the key is don't let them get to St. Lo. If they have a clear path there that they can maintain the supply line through, this is not going to be good at all. The good point? Well, the roads don't really give me a lot of space for the U.S. to do that. Let's see how big this German initiative is going to be. A big one would be nice. That would help me pull my units out more quickly. Oh, that's not very big. And that may mean giving the U.S. a big move to get out of there. Well, I spent all three of my actions, actually. 1, pulling out and down here. 2, beginning to entrench here. 3, dropped my extended deployment, have to do that before I move, and started falling back. That leaves a couple of units still exposed. We're going to pay a price for those extended deployments. There's no question there. I also didn't move as far back as I could have. I could have moved 1 more hex, but that would significantly degrade the defensive posture that I have right here, for whatever that's worth. It looks like I'm having to make hard choices that I do not like to make. Okay, trying to push hard. Looking at the coloration, I think we're at a hill here. So we're not going to get a penalty for that. The U.S. has, this was from the artillery fire, barely useful counters. You can just point, but whatever. There's a lot of excess numerical markers and such now for this game. I made a hasty attack. Remember, this had the extended zone, so it's harder to move through. Didn't have much left. Positioned a unit in place, dropped a big artillery strike, enough to demoralize. I got kind of lucky on the demoralize. I probably should have gone to 48. I was at like 42 total. And now I've got like 1 core artillery that I held out. I would have liked to have been in the mid-30s. Or high 30s. I probably would have failed then. But my attack is not a pleasant one. So I'm attacking 3 to 4. We don't like that. That's going to put me on this chart. The armor differential came out as 0, but I have, even though I have, some big armored assets, so did the Fallschirmer there, and I have armor, though, as do they, which means that we don't at least incur a penalty from that. So we're only at +8 on this. This is going to be a hard nut to crack, even in extended deployment. Those units are potent. And we roll shit. So the U.S. takes a hit. The kind of situation where, the combat chart is complicated enough that you don't immediately assess what you're going to do. And I got to say, the same thing's true with the OCS combat system. Except I remembered that one had this neat kind of facet to it where you're just not sure quite what you're going to do. This one's variable enough, you're not sure what you're going to quite do. I thought I had enough force here to probably start whittling him down, make him pay a price. That's why I'm attacking. I'm attacking to make him pay a price for that extended deployment. It turns out those big units are really able to do this, and this is what they live for, And now that I've started the action, I feel like I have to commit yet another one of the battalions into the fray, just to make things harder on him, A wee bit better because I have an extra unit in play adjacent from the command. That gets me an additional +2, so now I'm on the +10 roll, which is pretty much where I want it to be, obviously. So we're looking at 4 with an attacker strength of 3. Same column, of course, We might get a little luckier. And we do an 18. Ooh, that's going to do some hurt on the Germans. 2 hits and an armor. And yeah, I mean, the variance between a 0 and an 8 is quite significant. But, you know, think about like your Avalon Hill combat table with the attacker eliminated on one side and defender eliminated on the other of the die roll. And it's not that extreme, but it feels extreme to me when you're comparing it to some of the facets that's very slow moving in the middle of the range that's expected. I mean, I wasn't going to roll a 6 though, right? The lowest I could roll is an 11, so this is the side of the chart I'm on, and that's pretty sweet. I screwed something up. I've got some really weak US units up here on the front. I think that's correct. I think I did get hammered pretty hard on those attacks and didn't just think, oh, I'll put a 1 point because they took 1 hit or whatever. I can't be sure. That's where the big series, you know, where you can get some familiarity come in handy. Where a smaller game like this, it's only 10 turns. It's fairly, you know, and it doesn't have other games in the system. It kind of means that you're not going to get used to it, and probably every time you play it, you're going to have kind of this nagging thought of, am I doing things mechanically correct, or did I mess everything up? I don't know what to do. I definitely want to activate at least, you know, the operations that I have left with the U.S. forces. It's just, now comes this really hard, you know, where is it necessary? What do I have to do? Is there anywhere I have to move? You know, like, am I threatened here? Am I threatened here? Maybe. I don't know. These guys I'm a little worried about, so I'm thinking about bringing some reinforcements up to make it less appealing to launch an attack there. I gotta look and see. This is 175. It would be good to get that command together. So yeah, I think that'll be something. But another is, hey, what about this guy? You know, he is part of. Where's the rest of his command? His command's tracing through down here. You know, just weird stuff. I'm not really worried about the Germans moving back here. They made the decision to pull out. They're not going to come back, so I don't have to worry about, let's rush across and make sure we get across the, and grab this victory point hex now. Maybe I want to use this damaged unit to do it, something. So yeah, I think this is my top priority, is get the 175 up in kind of a coherent position. I don't think that the U.S. is going to be doing a whole hell of a lot of attacks. Pity I have an airstrike, right? Yeah, I don't know. It's hard to make that assessment right off the bat. I wanted to use the artillery because I don't want to expend my airstrike. I can use that without having to deploy, but now maybe I could be moving those artillery instead. I don't think I want to move them up much. Activation a little tricky. Dig in while I can. Too close here, can't do it anymore. So that's the extent of, my defensive formation there. Do I want to run away faster? Well, not really. That'll take hits. We've seen these units have some capacity to resist an entire regiment smashing into them. Screw it, man. Our goal is to delay the U.S., not find the best defensive line. The only worry being what happens if the U.S. comes down this road. I still got reinforcements coming in, some of them coming from Area C, so we should be able to block that off, I hope. Spending the effort down here, though, with the entrenchments where I can do them. And the key question of, hey, do I want to pull this demoralized guy out? Well, he takes a hit if he pulls out. That might be worth it, but his recovery is already expensive. Yeah, I think I do want to pull him out. Do I want to do it right now? Maybe not, because, so yeah, if the U.S. attacks, they still got one more attack on this guy. Yeah, I do want to pull him out. So because this is kind of weird, I have 3 action points to begin with. The first one I have to spend to leave my extended position. Okay, now I just took a hit for that. I'm not in good shape. Yeah, I want to get out of there. So now I only have 4 movement points, and that's 1, 2, 3, 4. And I'm not sure I want to go there. 1, 2, 3, 4. I have very few units. It doesn't really help me to defend every other hex. It doesn't really do me much good to defend every other hex particularly. It's not like, your sort of classic Avalon Hill designs in terms of that. Yeah, he's not happy. He took a big hit, remember? I may also want to expend a point then to get that asset off the damaged unit. But he's got to go to something he can be with. I don't like to do this, but let's drop the asset over there. And I don't want to withdraw my other units quite yet. There's a nasty gap here. But remember, each unit can only be activated once per sequence of operations. So what's cool about that is if this guy moves 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, let's say he comes sliding in and starts positioning himself, or one of these guys comes up, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I still have room and time to react and get, my units pulled out of the area. So I would rather not commit to that yet, but I could lose a jump. The initiative could be such that the U.S. gets its moves, the turn ends, and then I'm out of position. That's the danger. I get a lot of operations points, and one of the things that I was worrying about when I'm looking at it from the U.S. player perspective, I'm like, oh yeah, sure, I'd love to go down here, maybe smash my way through that or whatever. I can't. This unit can't cross that line. It's up to the yellows and the blues to take care of this problem. And what is that? The 29th and the 2nd. And they're not in the position to grab this important roadway. So they're going to have to face the defense that's being prepared for them. Kind of an interesting thing. It's like the Germans can plan for the U.S. to fail to coordinate properly. Honestly, a problem I have with scripted type rules like this, hey, in this situation, the U.S. maybe faced a gap like this. Again, I haven't read the thing as history. I'm not really that interested in this level of detail in World War II at all. I'm not familiar with the campaign to the degree that some people are, but this may represent exactly what happens in the battle, but it's somewhat unsatisfying that the German player isn't, well, I was, but shouldn't be shitting bricks about the fact that this road is almost open, that there's a risk to St. Lo, that I'm going to have to bring units up. I didn't even have to think about that, actually, because these guys can't do it. Maybe one of the last times I do this. At the end of the the U.S. movement, we basically positioned more forces to put a threat down here. Moving 2 more regiments into place. A large reason, prevent this thing from going up to a strong point. We just really don't want that to happen. And that gives +3 to the die roll. Do the Germans want to roll? I don't think so. I don't think there's anything that they legitimately... Oh, I want to... Yeah. Hell yeah. I want that. I didn't get to entrench that a second time, and I want to. Okay, so that'll be what I do there. Oh, I cheated. This guy ran all the way out here for some reason. That was 1, 2, 3. This is bad. We'll put him here. Basically, again, because of this divide here, I can't even take on this position at all, which puts me in a troublesome position. But yeah, I'll just leave it like that. Oops. Yeah, it's like, somebody's drifting a little far, isn't he? Yes, he was. He cheated to some effect with at least the U.S. in some places. Some of you may have caught this. During the control phase is when the U.S. control markers are placed. I just ran up and thought I could run through this and mark it. No, I gotta stay for the rest of the turn for that to count. Which may mean I don't want to send that unit. How about instead I send me an artillery up there? Is there some risk to that? Yeah, probably, but again, I could have worked around it, I'm sure, like this, with sending an artillery to go take a space instead of some other unit. This one is not at question. There were only 2 other control markers that were taken throughout the game. I don't think either one presented any problem. And now I looked it up because I'm wondering, what the fuck is the U.S. control phase for? Why am I putting a star there over the unit like that? Because that'll help remind me that is a victory point hex. Otherwise, the hex is covered and I can't tell, and I'll just forget and never score it. So it's more important for me to do that than anything else. Largely done with the U.S. operations. I'm just really moving units up to the front at this point, but I still got one nagging. Hey, I've got an airstrike. I've got 175. I could launch a quick little attack on that edge, and it doesn't look like a bad idea. I would be taking a hit, so I would be dropping down to the same size as it, and that's kind of the thing. I'm not really sure it's worth it. But other than that, I think I have like this artillery to move, and that's it. Unless I want to press units, and right now I don't really feel like pressure applies very well. This is an interesting option. This poor sucker's in bad shape. Maybe I want to give him a little hurt. I think that might make sense if I've got any assets that I can allocate over there. Overcommitted. This is one of the problems with the combat system. I ended up well above the +10 I needed. Took a hit though, so basically this unit, this regiment, is pretty beat up, but it's gained an important location, which means I could keep pressing on, right? Well, I don't know if I want to do that. I think what I'd rather do is force the Germans into a different defensive line, make them give this up. They were looking at this line. Well, I've just breached that line. I took that away from them by being a little bit more aggressive. Honestly, I think the Germans are hosed here, which is a little weird. Usually I have a great reluctance to press attacks, but in this game, something about it is making me say, yeah. The same thing happened in the Central Front with the friction. They're not real losses, I'm just pushing. Do I have another attack that I really, really want to make? Like I said, this one is semi-attractive simply because of that airstrike. So let's, do the Germans want to pull out? Because things are looking much, much more iffy to them. I think they want to die roll. They've got a +3 to the roll right now. Oh, that should help. That should be enough to get them out. I don't think I want to sit any longer. This doesn't look good. Is what my assessment is. This thing is weak. I have armored capacity there. I have 2 battalions, again, 2nd Division. Looks like it's spearheading things at this point. I have a couple of units, 1, 2, 3, 4. I could still attack. There's no extended deployments there. So this one, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Wouldn't have an attack, but it would give me the bonus. This guy's cut off a little bit. I think I roll the die to see. I'm going to roll the die no matter what, but I think I'm launching another attack with the U.S. was a little iffy about it because, hey, they're pulling out, they're giving me the space, but I don't want to give them any time. Ew. 4 should do it. All right, we're going to open up with the airstrike, though. In here, just to say one thing. Demoralizing the enemy means you sure the hell want armor involved in the attack. Yeah, demoralizing the enemy is just huge. It's +4 bonus there, but it's another 2 points on the armor differential. And remember, that just gets added right on. Easy to get me, even with a hasty attack with only 1 supporting unit, up to that +10 modifier. And strength-wise, oh, this guy's fresh. That can't be. He just activated. Yeah. I hope I haven't been doing stuff like that much. I feel comfortable about that comparatively, though. So this ends up a 2-to-1, which is here with a +10. That's pretty good. And why is this attack worthwhile? Because if I kill that strength point, I kill a bunch of assets. That's why I was okay, well, I killed him anyway, which is good enough. But yeah, that was the worst possible result I could get. We each get 1. I don't think I terribly want to advance right into the being next to the enemy where they can attack. That keeps something interesting in mind, though. Counterattacks, one of the purposes for them is, hey, look, there's a weak unit like that with assets. Maybe it's worth killing. Something like the Fall Shimmer here. It's not... Whoa, that guy... This can't be. Son of a bitch. Did I flip him and flip him back? God. I don't know. He's got to be fatigued. I moved him. I don't know what I did. I don't know whether his strength is right or not. And the mechanical aspects of it are painful. So, I mean, a 2-to-1 attack... I'd be giving up assets that I can't afford to lose or risk throwing them into the line where they're now at risk. I think I have to hold there. I don't think I have anything else I can do with the Germans. I do have a little bit of a worry here. This artillery unit is kind of exposed. And I think I want to move that. Big question is, do I want to move this? Well, he's expended his activity digging in, and now I'd have to pull him out of there. Wow, I don't want to do that. But honestly, I kind of do. I kind of want to get everybody, just give up this side of the board, because I think it was a mistake to try to defend it. I think it would be better to just let the U.S. press on up there. So we have enough movement to move this artillery. Let's get it. What's its range? 8. Too bad I can't get up on that hill. That doesn't look too much better either. Yeah. Oh no, I'm safe. But there's these guys. I got nothing. We'll just go there, I guess. I don't know. I don't know where I was. Yeah. I think I moved back a little bit, but yeah, that's not pleasant. And I don't have to worry about him crossing the line and hitting me. I do have to worry though about, hey, why am I defending this? Let's just pull out and get to St. Lo. Is that important at this point? Maybe that's just what we want to do. We had a 7 roll. Let me get this guy back. This was 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Yeah, I think I'm gonna pull out and abandon this side of the board, which I wasn't planning on doing, but it's the important thing. And just, you know, that's one whole division that's not my problem anymore. Have consequences though. That freed this thing up to come charging down. It was resting, and grab an end space victory point X. I thought about grabbing this one, but the problem with that is you can make an argument of attacking that one. This one's going to be harder to choose to attack for the Germans. They probably are just going to give that up and withdraw back. This gets me a victory point for crossing this border, and the victory point for the victory point hex. That seemed like way too much if the Germans are going to fall back towards St. Lo. Elsewhere, not a lot changed. I don't think I want to push my U.S. units any further. They're pretty fatigued, but they're not facing much. And that's kind of the thing. Like, you know, if this was a healthy unit, man, I'd just run down to St. Lo and force the Germans to come, you know, chasing me down there and set something up in place. But this is not a healthy unit by any means, and whatever reinforcements are coming in would cause me some grief. Okay, so we go to, and I've got this on here, looks like the reinforcements phase. Germans don't get a modifier anymore. Look at a little roll. We're going to get one unit down in entry area A. I think I want to just abandon this and not try to pummel this thing if that's the only reinforcement I'm getting this turn. Control markers officially get placed, and what is our points for the turn? 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, which does us quite well, putting us to 24. This is turn 6. If I was playing the short game, that would put me nicely into the marginal victory range, not some kind of close call. And there I go. Okay, now starting in turn 7, artillery barrages start getting air spotting advantages, and that makes them more effective, which, you know, might be enough to bust up some of these strong points or whatever. Right now, it looks like the U.S. is doing really well. Abandoning this means these victory points are essentially gone. Not this one, though. Although, maybe effectively, but somebody else has to go down there who is not a red unit. But it knocks out an entire division of U.S. forces. What happens if the game statics on this line? Because there are still a fair number of German reinforcements. They may be able to stump and stymie the offense. If it statics on this line, what did we say? We said 6? 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, no, 8. So let's call that, that's going to be 10 pretty soon. 1, 2, 3, 4. 40 more points. That's going to put me in the 60 range, which in the long scenario gives the U.S. a marginal victory. So even if the U.S. doesn't push forward any more than they're going to, any more than they kind of are being given for free, which is these 2 additional hexes, we're looking at a marginal U.S. victory. And so I'm doing better than historical, I think, because I think the Germans were given, I think the game kind of says the Germans basically got a victory out of this historically. But on the other hand, they have probably made some errors in the U.S.'s favor, certainly some blunders in terms of German positioning. So that's kind of interesting. Let's get one more turn on this video before we send it up. And I wish I could say this at the beginning of the video, given when it's going up, but sometime in the near future, we're interrupting your ongoing coup coverage for some more of this much less impactful information. Who knows where the hell everything's going to end up, but I don't think a little riot is where everything stops. All right, so opened up. The U.S. got no airstrikes, 2 useless naval fire. They won the initiative, have 2 operations. I don't know what the hell I'm going to be doing. Didn't get enough sleep tonight to do, or last night to do any gaming before work. So, yeah. I'm just trying to see if I see anything where the U.S. really wants to push hard. Obviously, we got a gap right there. We probably want to try to break this apart, but if we could throw enough into that gap, there is a path towards St. Lo. How far are we? We're not going to be able to do administrative march because we're too close here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You know, again, the Germans have a couple of units. I don't want to let them get too established. You know, I don't want this ship moving over particularly. But how hurt is it? It's not that bad. But the threat, you know, yeah. I'll try to figure out what I want to do. I mean, do I want to open this gate up, in which case the Germans are screwed? And of course, we're coming down this way too. Or do I want to try to focus? Now remember, none of this can go over there and help. And that's the big deal. This whole division is going to be left behind. So I've got 2 divisions that can kind of push through here, and the yellow is poised to do so. It could do one of 2 things. It can work on trying to eliminate this position here, or it can push towards St. Lo. And I can't make my mind up. Either. These are not in good shape, and these are not far behind in terms of damage. I would really like to rest. Able to push too hard. I pushed another regiment of the yellow up that isn't too badly spent. That gets me down to 0. One of the nice things about that is I can pull some assets off some of these more injured guys and throw them forward. But let's not give the Germans more to their die roll than we're going to by pushing a little harder. Oh, they got tons anyway. Oh well. You know, for all the Germans were able to move pretty much everything. Now, there's a problem. This gap still is open. However, units are down here in position to deal with an attack directly on St. Lo. I'm covering to prevent a sweep through the to the west of the swamp there, and I've extended a unit. This is a Fallschirmer unit, which should be plenty for the weakness that's holding right there. I may have to fall back a little bit. I moved all my infantry though. That means nobody's recovering. You know, I'm just gonna start deteriorating. And remember, the current points, if the U.S. grabs these, guarantees a marginal victory, and those are clearly easily available with this withdrawal. Now, some people would say, "Oh, the game's over, man. I've got a guaranteed marginal victory. Screw it." And I can understand that point. On the other hand, I feel like there's still interest taking place in terms of the U.S. could still make further. They've got a point here that's being given up. That pushes it, and it was kind of in the midst of the marginal. So we might be in territory where we can get better than a marginal. If we can, which looks likely, cut these guys off so that they have to fall back, that's 2 more victory point zones available. So, you know, I do want to still play it out. I think there's interesting stuff going on. The activation roll. I used all 5 points available, giving the Germans a big roll if they want it. Pushed a unit up here to carve out either the movement to cut these guys off or to get me more direction that way. I could have thrown more units up, but I had other things I wanted to do, such as cut this, make sure I'm not going to have to fight for that hex. Head down this way. I would have liked to have moved another unit that way. I don't know what else I chose. I may have moved something like this, but I can't undo things. I would like to make sure that if the turn ends early, I've got as many victory point hexes as I can hold. And this one is on the wrong side of the line. First, a mistake. I don't usually do this in games, but I don't have the feel for this game terribly well. I went into extended deployment thinking I would need it. I don't. I cover this hex, I cover this hex, and I cover this hex, all with zones of control. The ally, I know it looks really open, but the zones of control are covering things. I'm not going to place this. I'm in the location I want it to be. I got a big 11 points. If I can... This guy is kind of in not the place I want him, but unfortunately he's in a strong point and can recover. Probably I'll keep him there just as a massive speed bump to protect, and it protects this. There's no question of that. I mean, if I'm not here, where am I? You know, maybe a hex behind or something, but this isn't a bad place. I rolled, so I have to do something. Can't fortify here, which I would have liked to have done, but I think I do have to move at least one unit, maybe more, to try to block things off there. Maybe the best I can do with the German deployment, given the activations. I do have one unit in kind of reserve. Hey, reserve is actually important in this. Why is it important? Well, first of all, if something breaks, you can throw it in the line or whatever, which is different, you know, from many war games where it's this I go, you go, and you're not expending anything to move or whatever. By holding him in reserve, yeah, sure, I'll take a hit or whatever, but I can put him to cover if there's a problem. He's also sitting in the place I want him. I don't want to fortify because I think I do want to be forward of here if I can possibly manage it. What about the gap here? Well, yeah, it's not good. There's a couple of hex gap here, but the roads are covered, which may be enough. And again, if the U.S. comes, you know, if they send this thing barging through, I don't know what I do, but I might be able to cut it off completely. I might be able to do all kind of cool stuff. I don't know if there's a restriction on the control markers, whether or not like St. Lo could be grabbed behind the lines and then I gotta dig it out of there, which I'd have to look up if this situation seems to arise. If we're just talking about these guys moving up, I can throw this unit in there still. I may want to. Yeah, in the woods hex for the added defense. Because everything else is covered. Yeah, screw it. I wanted a reserve. It's so seldom a useful thing in war games, and I could see it here very well, but I just can't justify it. Oh, maybe I can't make it there. Ho-ho, because I can't do admin movement. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think it's an extra movement point to get in that woods. If I'm not going to be in the woods, let's let the U.S. make the decision of whether or not I need to cover it. Nothing except this thing is going to be able to push through far enough, and that thing on its own, I think I can cope with one way or another. The U.S. has moved all the units they wanted to move. Pretty much everything. There. Exception here. And this guy who has assets to transfer that had to be transferred to him, so he can't do it right now. But yeah, one of the major things was setting up this line here. Now my victory points are pretty much secure, and pushing things forward here. So what do we go to after the operations? That'll be the German reinforcements, which is a roll on the table. 6, we just got 1. That's going to be in area C. You know, I'm worried about area A. There is still units from area A, and there's a problem with that area A is clogged up. So if we get there, I have to worry about what happens in that case. I should look up that roll. Okay, handled the recovery, etc. I'll go to that in a moment, but we collect up 11 victory points again this turn. That puts us to 35 this turn. 7, that pushes us to 8. I looked up the rule on the reinforcement. They can't enter until those hexes are cleared. So that unit is probably just not going to be there. And the assumption is that these guys are kind of pushing forward and preventing it. So it all works. I like it better than the, oh, you can bring the unit in somewhere else. It kind of makes sense that you shut down reinforcements by putting a threat into a sector. Some of the U.S. units have actually recovered some strength points. Some of them are still beat up. I'm seeing myself making some mistakes, like not assigning these assets to something that's likely to be launching the attack. However, I'm really not that close to the German line yet. I've had to slow down a little bit. Victory point wise, let's say I pull that 11 a turn for the remaining 3 turns. That's 33. That puts me to 68. Is that going to get me into the medium? No, right at the edge of the marginal. So I got to do better than I'm doing, which should be possible. But I think the result is probably a marginal with some possibility of just a minor, because this line is not something I'm just going to be able to brush away, but I might be able to chunk a hole here, or I should be able to slip down and grab this with like these Rangers, because there's supply going out of there, and if I could bring the yellow around, I could be pulling this way and then extend that direction. But that's a hard long run, which would be saying we're giving up St. Lo. But maybe at this point it's time to give up St. Lo. Okay, I guess we loaded up, and that is going to be the 13th of June for this video.